guys, welcome to third grade reading. It's Miss Betby's, and we are here for our last day of reading. And it's really your last day of third grade too, so that's really exciting as well. Can't believe it, it's gone by so fast. So today I have something fun planned in store. Hopefully you can probably tell from the way I'm dressed kind of where we're going today, but we are going to play ball, and I'm excited about that. So this will be our theme throughout reading and math today. We started working earlier this week and into last week on sequencing events. So we started last Thursday and then on Monday again, and we have been sequencing and putting events in the order that they happen and learning how to communicate that in our voices when we are explaining and retelling a story and putting those events in the order that they happen. So we are going to finish that up today and end strong with our ability to sequence. So today I found a book that we are going to read, and it is called From Wood to Baseball Bat. So we're going to focus on one part of baseball, and that part is the equipment that we use, specifically today, the bat. Okay? So as I read this story today, I want you to really think about what are the events, what are the things that are happening, and this is going to be a process, a procedure where they make a bat. It's going to move from wood to a baseball bat. So it's going to be pretty easy to see that sequence, and then we're going to practice really going back in our text, which we've been talking about, and being able to find the order that those things happen in so that we can create a good retell with the events in the order that they occurred, okay? So as you can see behind me, I have set up here what looks like a baseball diamond so that we can then take our events and we can put them in the order that they happen going around our baseball diamond. We will have a few extra events, and so they'll be over here waiting to bat and go around the bases, okay? And we'll kind of sequence them and put them in that order available. All right, guys, so I'm going to go ahead and jump right into our story today, From Wood to Baseball Bat. So as I'm reading, really pay attention to the order of the events, and I also want to tell you to pay attention to a specific piece of our story. So today, you have an opportunity to win some gift cards to Chick-fil-A, some t-shirts, win a little prize if you can answer one question throughout my lesson. And the question that I want you to be able to answer, and we'll look at it again shortly, I posted it over here. And so it is, I want you to listen for what is required in the grain of wood in order for it to be used to make a baseball bat. So you're gonna hear me tell you something that's really important about the grain of wood, okay? And I want you to pay attention to that, because if it doesn't have this grain of wood in what they call a billet, then they can't make a baseball bat out of it. So listen for that, and then I'll remind you at the end, but you'll email your answer to mcpsstv@mcpss.com for your chance to win. Okay, so now I really am going to get started, since I told you what I want you to look for specifically outside of our events. Okay. First, trees are cut into logs. Wooden baseball bats are made from ash or maple trees. When a tree is big enough, workers cut it down. They cut the tree into logs. The logs are taken to a sawmill. So something that I thought was interesting on this page when I was reading it was that it's specific types of trees that are used to make bats. It's not just any tree or any wood. It was trees specifically from ash or maple trees. Then the logs are cut and shaped. The mill cuts the best logs into smaller pieces called billets. Remember that from our question? So billets are what they call the smaller pieces that they cut the wood into. Workers shape the billets into cylinders. Next, the billets are dried. This makes them light and keeps them straight. Then the billets are sent to a factory. So you can see that shape of the cylinder that it's been cut into, and you can also see where it's been cut away from the outside. Next, a worker chooses a billet. At the factory, the billets are checked to make sure they will be strong. Their grain, ooh, I heard that word. That was kind of a key word in my question. Their grain has to be perfectly straight. What did they tell me about that grain? It had to be what? Oh, perfectly straight. A worker chooses a billet of the right size and weight to make a bat. Okay, so that grain has to be straight and it has to be the right size and weight in order for it to be made into a bat. So all those billets are not going to be used. That was something too I thought was interesting. They have to make sure it meets those qualifications. A machine carves the wood. A worker puts the billet into a machine. This machine turns the wood very fast. A sharp blade carves the wood as it spins. The machine forms the knob, the thin handle, and the wider barrel of the bat. So you can see all of that here. Okay. Then the bat is sanded. The bat is put in another machine. This machine also turns the bat. As it turns, a worker sands the bat until it is smooth. Okay? So I thought that was interesting that in the factory it does have a machine that spins it, but it's actually a worker, a person is actually sanding that bat. Okay? And so that's a lot more labor intensive than a machine doing it. Might be why some of them cost a little more money. Next, workers check the bat. The bat has a nub at each end where the machines held it. Workers cut off the nubs. They sand the ends of the bat. Then they make sure the bat is the right size and weight. So you can see here, if you look closely at the bat, that it has these little extensions on the end that they're calling nubs. So they cut those off because that's just there to help them hold, to be held into the machines. Machines add logos. Workers move the bat to more machines. One machine burns the logo onto the bat, so we can see that here. Another machine uses lasers to add details about the style of the bat. Then a worker stains the bat. A worker dips the bat in stain. Stain makes the barrel of the bat darker. Then he or she hangs the bat to dry. Next, the bat is sprayed with clear liquid. The liquid hardens to protect the bat. Finally, the bat is shipped. The finished bat is shipped to a store. It is ready for the big game. Batter up. Okay, and then we have some of our text features we've been talking about. We have a glossary to talk about some of those words that maybe we weren't familiar with, and it will tell us our definitions. And then we just have some places where we can find more information about this process and about how bats are made. So those were just some additional text features that were added in. And we also have an index here at the end as well. Okay, all right, so now that we've read our story, I hope that you could see that we go through a process of a tree being the wood and it being taken through an entire process to where it becomes a wooden bat, right? Okay, so now we're going to use our book if we need to go back in our text, and we are going to look at events from the story and we're going to put them in the correct order that they happened around our baseball diamond. Are y'all ready? Okay, let's get going. So, looking right here, we have, that's kind of flopping over. I'm just going to read what our facts are so that we can then take them and put them in the correct order. So we have billets are checked at the factory for perfectly straight grain, size, and weight. Okay, so think about that. When did that happen? All right, another one says when ash or maple trees grow big enough, they are cut into logs and taken to a sawmill where they cut the wood into billets and send them to a factory. Think about between those two things, which one would have happened before the other one, okay? Because you can start thinking about these as I read them to you. Logos and details are then added to the bat. The bats are stained and receive a protection layer, okay? Another one says the bat is sanded until smooth. A worker cuts off the nubs that were on the ends of the bat and check to make sure it's the correct size and weight. Okay, the next one says the bats are shipped out to stores. When did that happen in our story? When were they shipped out to stores? Think about that. And then the last event is a machine carves the wood into the shape of a bat. Okay, so we have a total of 6 possible things, and we need to take them and put them in the correct order from which one happened first all the way to the 6th part of the process that we went through. Okay, so let's think about these that I just read to you, and we can also use our text. Okay, we really should be doing that in 3rd grade, especially going back in that text. We're reading more complex text. This may not be the most complex, but we are usually reading more complex text, and we need to go back and find the sequence of events to make sure that we are being accurate. So right here, the very first thing we start with is trees being cut down in order to get the wood. So did we have a baseball that was talking about that? I see one. Do you see it? Yes, this one, right? It says, when ash or maple trees grow big enough, they are cut into logs and taken to a sawmill where they cut the wood into billets and send them to a factory. So that would be the first one. That's all right here on this very first page. So this baseball, where does it need to go, guys? We need to move it to first base, right? It's the first one. All right. Now, let's keep looking. I'm going to move this one over a little bit just so we could see them a little bit more together. Okay? So now, let's go back in our text and let's look again. Okay? So next, it's talking about how they're cut into billets and shaped. Well, we kind of covered that one here. Okay? So we're going to keep going in our text. Next, a worker chooses a billet. Okay, so this is where they start talking about the worker taking these billets, which are these wood that have been cut into cylinders. And this is the page where we talked about this question too. What is required in the grain of the wood in the billet in order for it to be used to make a baseball bat? What did they tell us? It said what? Their grain has to be perfectly straight. So if you're hearing that, email your answer to mcpsstv@mcpss.com. Okay? So if we look here, this is where all of that's happening. They're checking it, and I see that. Do you see that on one of our baseballs? Where they're checking the billets and they're picking the right one for the right grain, size, and weight. Yes, right here, this baseball. Okay, so this would be what step in our process? Number 2. So we're going to go to second base with him. Very good. All right, let's look at another one. Okay, so when we flip the page, now we're talking about machines carving the wood. It's talking about how it has knobs on it for it to hold this. Do we see one of these back here that's talking about that? I see this one's talking about the bat being sanded, cutting off the nubs. Have we gotten to where they're cutting off the nubs yet? What about here? Logos and details are then added to the bat. Okay, bats are shipped out to stores, or a machine carves the wood into the shape of a bat. Well, what did it do? It carved it into the shape of a bat. So this would be the 3rd step in the process. So we're going to take it over here to 3rd. Does everybody see that? Good. We're doing good. We're halfway through. You're doing a great job. All right, so now we want to get to home plate. Home plate would be 4th, right? Because if we get all the way home, we've made it through 4 bases. So we want to find out what happens 4th. All right. So then it says our bat gets sanded, and then after it gets sanded, they cut off the nubs and make sure they double check it to make sure that everything's ready. It's ready to be the correct size, weight, where they could actually use this bat. Okay, so do we see one of these that matches that step in the process? Okay, again, I see it. Do you see it? Yes, right here. The bat is sanded until smooth. The workers cut off the nubs and check to make sure the bat is the correct size and weight. So this would be 4th. He brings us home right here. All right? So now we're going to take these 2 and they're going to be in the lineup. They're ready to go, right? All right, so what would be next? All right, let's look back in our text because that's what good readers do. Okay, so next we're going to add logos. It says machines add logos and details to the style of the bat. Do we have a baseball that gives us that information? Yes, right here. Here's where it talks about it. They also included the fact that it got stained because that's what happens next after they add those logos and details. So this would be our 5th step in the process. So he's up next. And then that means that this would be our last step. It says the bats are shipped out to stores. And obviously that makes sense. They're ready to go and they're ready to be now, actually they've been produced and now they're ready for consumers to purchase them. So that would be the last step in the process of making a bat, right? Okay, that makes sense. All right, well, you guys did an awesome job today of going back in your text, of really taking that and making a home run with our sequencing here. And then I also just want to remind you one last time that if you heard the answer to what is required in the grain of wood in the billet in order for it to be used to make a baseball bat, take your answer now and email it to mcpsstv@mcpss.com for your chance to win a prize, okay? All right, guys, I'm so thankful that you joined me these past couple weeks for 3rd grade reading, and I know that you guys are going to do awesome in 4th grade, and I wish you the best of luck and the best summer, and I'll see you soon. Bye, guys.